While you say, I'm afraid that I might feel sad, we say, most of you are afraid that you'll feel numbness. And we say, oh, wouldn't it be too bad to get numbed into bliss, would it? This we promise you. Life will never stop giving you a reason to want beyond where you are. And when you've discovered the deliciousness of turning in the direction of what you want, so that the inspiration is calling you all the time, that is a sort of riding a wave that is beyond verbal description. We promise you, you won't miss the pathos of negative emotion in your life experience. There are a lot of people who, even with the word want, when we use the word want, we mean desire. And we know technically that want can mean desire something I don't have, I'm wanting for it, but it's just semantics. So some people say, I want that, and they feel blissful in it, like a child who hasn't been taught that she can't have everything she wants, loves wanting. But when you want something and it's laced with doubt, now that wanting is sort of icky. I want it, but doesn't feel nearly as good as I want it and it's coming feels far different than I want it, but I can't see how it's going to come. So many people equate the feeling in their belly of wanting something with that yearning, that they don't even quite yet know what the freshness of pure desire feels like, you see. And really, that's what we heard from you when you said, I don't want to be sad. What you're saying to us, even though you're using that terminology, is I want to be a vibrational match to the freshness of who I really am. I want to be who I am. I want to see the world through the eyes of Source. I want to feel the world through the eyes of Source. I want to experience life from my tuned in, tapped in, turned on perspective. And that's what we want for you too.
Just restate it differently.
Say, I don't want Novocaine in my fingers, and I don't care if something makes me sad because I know what to do about it. I know what to do about it. We want you to be satisfied with where you are and eager for more. And some would say, well, that sounds like a contradiction. How can you be satisfied but still want more? And we say, because you're eternal. You have to leave elbow room for the expansion, which is inevitable, you see. So when you get to that place where you're not sad, but you're satisfied, in other words, even satisfied in your sadness, think about that. It's good that I have negative emotions sometimes. It keeps me knowing where I am. And there's plenty of thoughts that I've thought along the way that I can't possibly bring them all up to date. So things are going to keep popping up. And as they pop up, I'm going to find a new way of looking at them. Jerry and Esther were in a restaurant in a truck stop the other day. They picked up their new bus, and it's in the parking lot. Did you see it? And as they were having a meal, Esther looked around and she saw so many hard-working people all around her, hard-working people. One man was so tired he was holding his head with one hand while he ate with the other. And for a moment, Esther felt sad. She just couldn't look at it without feeling sad. And then she thought, these guys are free. If I wasn't doing this work, I'd be a truck driver. I love the road so much. Nothing is more exhilarating than to get out on the road on a beautiful day like this. It's fun to have some place that you want to be, some place that's calling you. And her sadness went right away. They're independent contractors. They're working the way they want to. They're in charge of their lives. I've never met one that was not pleasant when I engaged them. They are kind to me when we're at the fuel bays. They've taught me the ropes of the moving around the truck stops. They give me mostly thumbs up. They're reaching to feel better. And Esther talked herself right out of her sadness, right into connection. And the guy was still sitting there holding his head with his hand, you see. What you're really getting at is you want control of the way you feel without conditions having to change. And since you can't control conditions, most of you feel vulnerable about the way you're going to feel, because there are conditions out there that if you focus upon them, you're going to feel bad. And there's plenty of people in the world telling you you should focus upon those sad conditions and you should feel sad. And we're here to tell you, you can't help but see some of those negative conditions, and you will feel sad when you focus upon them. But when you do, you'll send off a rocket of desire. And when you turn your undivided attention to the rocket of desire, you will make the world a better place. And that person living that bad experience and your bad feeling response to it, which was all part of your giving birth to the improvement, and then your willingness to give your undivided attention to the improvement, that's the way you help the world be uplifted. You never uplift the world when you feel sad, but maybe sadness is the first step in you helping the world.
Because now I'm aware.
Because sadness was the contrast that helped you take step one. And without step one, you can't take step two. Step two is source answering it, not really your step to take. Step three is your step. Step three is where your work must be. But never say, I don't want to take step one, because that would defy your reason for coming forth in this leading edge experience. You came as step oneers, and we're trying to get you to be step threeers more than step oneers, because the step oneing happens without your conscious awareness of it. The step threeing is where all of your work lies.
I have one other question that I feel burning, that I feel other people would want asked. Otherwise, I'd get down. I don't mean to monopolize the time, but...
Don't need to justify being here.
Oh, fair enough. As I learn this, and I indoctrinate myself as much as I can. I have it on my iPod, I have it in my car, I am working to do this. I run into people, family members, friends, and I hear them say things, I hear them shoot themselves in the foot, and my heart just aches, and I want to share it. And the last time I sat in front of you, you warned me, you said, don't push this on others, because then you create your way of thinking, your religion, it sucks like everyone else, and your words. And
strange, we don't remember that.
I have the CD, I listen to it often, but what was interesting is as I played it for someone, it's kind of like the person listening said, like, wow, she kind of smacked you. It was a humble, and I felt that, and I have noticed so many times I want to share with people, and there's negative. I'll give them a CD or something, and they won't listen to it, or I'll share it.
Here's the thing. When someone's life is not going well, that's not the right moment to tell them they are the creator of their own reality. And
okay.
What's happening to you is, you see, what's happening is, in their struggle, you're hearing asking. And as Source does, in other words, in their struggling, they're sending all kinds of rockets of desires over there into their vibrational escrow. And so they don't need you to do their asking, and they have their own source that's calling them toward it. So the question that we want to put to you is, did you understand the story that we told? Your source energy, you come forth, you explore contrast, you give birth to rockets of desires, and then the source within you calls you toward it. You get that picture. So here's the impertinent question that we're going to put back to you as we smack you this time.
Okay, I'm ready.
If Source can't get them to listen, what makes you think you can?
Ouch.
In other words, they are where they are, and where they are is all right. But so what happens, if you focus upon them, you see, here's what happens. You're really going to like this.
Okay.
Well, this is the best we've ever given about this particular thing. You really are going to like this. So let's say you're watching someone struggling in their life, and they're launching all kinds of rockets of desires, but they're depriving themselves of their own expansion because they're fixated on what's gone wrong. So now you're watching them. And in your watching their contrast, you're having contrast because you care about them. So as you see someone living what you know they don't want, you're putting your version of them in your vibrational escrow. Did you hear that? You care about them. You're putting your version of them in your vibrational escrow. So you've got a new and improved person over here. They're feeling good about themselves. They're prosperous. Their relationships are going better. You gave birth to it by watching the contrast. You built an image of them that your source within you is holding to. And now you're observing them in the mess of a life they're living. You're not up to speed with what you've put in your vibrational escrow about them. And the reason you're so annoyed at them is because if they'd just clean it up, then you could see them as you want them to be. That's so big. You know, did you get it? Do you understand that the reason that you feel bad when you see other people not doing well is because every fiber of your being wants wellness for them, and when they're living the opposite of it, then you're using them as your excuse not to close the gap and not to be up to speed with who you are. So what you do is, so let's say you're watching someone, they're struggling. And you've watched them long enough that you've built a pretty good vibrational escrow about who they are. And this is what you wish for them. And this is what the larger part of you is holding to vibrationally. And now you see something and you wince because it makes you feel sad, because it's different from what you want to see. But you recognize the emotion, and you know now that all that means is you're looking at the current version of them instead of the real version of them. You're looking at where they are instead of where they are going. So you turn your undivided attention. Jesus said, turn the other cheek. You turn your undivided attention to what's in your vibrational escrow about them. Now, a mother said to us one day, my son will feel that I'm forsaking him if I don't give my attention to his problems. And we say, no one will feel like you don't care about them if you're focused upon the improvement of their life. So now you start developing these patterns of thoughts about them. You start seeing them as successful. You start seeing them as having better timing. You start seeing them as being on time for things. You start seeing them as thriving because you don't want to be sad, and you care about the way you feel, and you've got a choice of the sad version of them or the happier version of them. And over time you train yourself into the happy version of them. So your expectation of them becomes this. And now law of attraction can only rendezvous you with them when they are somewhere in the vicinity of that which you are, which they often are. And now when you say something, they'll hear it because they're within vibrational range, you see. Did you hear that?
Yes.
So big. Now let's play it the other way just to make sure you heard it. Let's say that all of that's been happening. You've been creating this version of them little by little by little of what you really want, but they are living so emphatically where they are that it keeps sucking you in. So instead of training yourself over here like you want to, you've let them sort of train you over here. And so your expectation of them is over here where they are and don't want to be, and where you don't want them to be, rather than over here where they want to be and where you want them to be. So here you are, focused upon that. You got to ask yourself, what am I doing over here? Law of attraction has me rendezvousing over here instead of over here. What's up with that? In other words, this must be the most active vibration within me about them. You see, every subject is two subjects, what's wanted and lack of it. And you can tell which end of the stick is most practiced within you by which end keeps showing up the most, you see. So in time, you'll be able to say to your friend, I've loved being involved with you. I've watched you in your struggle like we all do. And as I saw your struggle, I saw so clearly who you really are. And I held my undivided attention on who you really are. And who you really are is so great. And I appreciate my exposure to you because you actually helped me to train myself to see what I really wanted to see in my object of attention, you. And in doing so, you were a good test for me, you can say to them, because you showed me so much stuff I didn't want to see that I had to really focus to see what I did want to see. And in doing so, I was able to see not just you, but a whole lot of other things through the broader perspective. And by the time you're telling them that, they'll be understanding it perfectly, you see. Here's something that you may have heard in your physical vernacular for some time. A person will rise to the level of your expectation. You just got to ask yourself, where have you trained your expectation? Have you trained it as to what you want to see, or are you letting the current reality train your expectation? It's a big difference between deliberate creation and creation by default. You can see who they really are, who they've become, or who they are. That's why it feels so big, you see.
I know you feel my appreciation.